their audience. That's 100% the route I'm trying to get to. But so like I'm still at the stage where I'm still trying to build credibility and just build a foundation of which hey, like I've been doing this. Coming onto my platform is a safe place, because if I go out there and I try to find like Elon Musk right now, he's like, who the heck are you? Versus if I had like at the very least like 20,000 subs, I'm like, okay, cool, you got something going on, let me go on. Versus like, because like he'll just look at me like, all right, okay, you have 126 subs, like you're not worth my time.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, and we are live. All right. How are you doing, Todd?
Pretty good, Rex. How about you?
Always good. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Happy to do it.
Awesome. So I have been binge watching a lot of your content in these last 2 weeks, and I feel like I'm an expert in Amazon dropshipping now and wholesaling. Just from watching your videos, you put up some really, really good content, I gotta say.
Yeah, that's the goal. Whatever helps people. That's kind of how I got started with other people who put content out there for me. So I like to try to give back.
Yeah, but there's there's definitely a difference in like the level of dropshipping content out there from most videos I see. And I'll be honest, not to crap on the community, but like it's very cringy, a lot of the stuff that's out there. Mostly because it's like little kids who are like in like their early 20s doing it, and they're doing, and their heart's in the right place. They're trying to do it like big and dramatic, but with your videos, you just get like right down and like you cut out the fluff. This is what you got to do. This is what you're gonna run into. These are the problems you're gonna run into, and this is what you can expect if you do these things correctly. You're going to be very successful and run a very good business.
Yeah, for sure. It's it's kind of one of those things. I tend to, like you said, get to the point and try to solve a problem for someone, which is not always ideal for like YouTube algorithms and stuff, right? So the kids, as you call them, you they're probably a lot better at the marketing side of it and catching people's eyes. The content might not be as good, but you win some, you lose some there when you're fighting with the algorithms that YouTube has.
Oh yeah, because the YouTube algorithm is all about it's about the clickbaity stuff and getting attention, not so much about the educational stuff, which upsets me a little bit. But
yeah, it's just, it's the mass audience that is attracted to that stuff. People who really actually want to be successful and are willing to do the work, that's only like a couple % of the population that's willing to actually do it. So,
gotcha. Well, thank you for your work. So, I guess that's like an intro to who you are. But all right. So, Todd Welch, Amazon wholesaler. Would you consider yourself an expert? Can I call you an expert?
Yeah, I suppose compared to most people. Sometimes I feel like I'm brand new, other times I feel like an expert. So it kind of depends on what I'm fighting for the day.
That's the entrepreneur's journey, right?
Oh yeah, it never ends. I think that's one of the biggest life lessons that I've learned, is that everybody's just trying to figure it out. Everybody's just at different levels. You move up and to a different level, everybody behind you looks at you and like, oh, that guy's got it figured out, and you're like, wow, I don't know what I'm doing. Look at those guys up there. And it's just a never-ending way of life, learning new things.
That's funny, because one of the things I tell people, which was an absolute game changer to me, was just the day I realized that none of us really know what the heck we're doing. Whether you're Elon Musk and you're buying Twitter, or you're a guy who's flipping burgers at McDonald's, none of us really know what we're doing. We're all just making it up as we're going along. Because I look at like Elon, Jeff, and Gates, I'm like, oh, all three of them have had a divorce in the last 5 years. If they don't know what they're doing, I don't know what I'm doing. And it sounded scary at first, but then I realized, that's actually very, very liberating. Because if we don't know what we're doing, that means the rules aren't written in stone, which means that the rules that are right for my life are going to be the rules that I define for myself, which is going to allow me to just build upon my own foundation. I don't have to follow somebody else's rules. And
yeah, it's especially difficult when you're young, because you look at people who are older and doing things that you want to be doing, and you feel like they got it all figured out, when in reality, if you could put yourselves in their shoes, they're probably struggling with other things in their life just the same or more than what you're struggling with, whatever you're trying to figure out. So it's a leveling up, essentially, I think is the best way to put it. There's just levels, and you're always trying to move up.
100%. All right, so I guess we'll start with we'll start 5 minutes into it. So in your words, in your words, what is Amazon dropshipping? Because there's still a lot of like smoke and mirrors around this whole industry. A lot of people are not entirely sure what it is. A lot of people don't even know that dropshipping even exists or affiliate marketing even exists. Like they hear those words and they think you need some kind of law and business degree, when I'm like, no, 90% of people who are doing these have never even gone to business or even gone to college. I don't know what your background is, but so what is Amazon dropshipping and why should people get into it?
Sure. So there's actually several different ways that you can do Amazon. Drop shipping is one of them. Wholesale is what we call it, is what I actually mostly do. I do a very little bit of drop shipping, but mostly wholesale. And then you also have private label. So the main difference is drop shipping is essentially I'm never taking possession of the items, but I'm listing them for sale on Amazon. If one sells, I go over to the supplier, I put that order in with the supplier, and they send it to the customer.
Oh.
With wholesale, which is mostly what I do take possession of the product. So I might order 30, 60, 90 days or more worth of stock. It comes to my warehouse. In the beginning, it came to my basement, but now it comes to my warehouse, and then we prep it and ship it into Amazon's warehouses from there. And when it sells, Amazon grabs it and sends it out to the customer for us. And then the sexy way to sell on Amazon that most people talk about on Amazon is private label.
Yes.
And that's essentially creating your own brand, making your own products, whatever it is that you want to make. The private label is definitely the highest risk, highest reward. People who are selling those businesses are getting 5, 6, sometimes even 7x on their profit of the company. Wholesale is more like low risk, medium reward, and then I would say drop shipping is more kind of medium low risk, low reward. Drop shipping usually isn't quite as profitable because you're paying more because you're buying in such small quantities, where at wholesale I can buy in bulk and get discounts, the same way that Walmart buys their products in bulk and gets big discounts from the suppliers.
Gotcha. All right. So so you do wholesaling. That's your bread and butter then.
Correct.
Did you start out doing wholesaling, or did you accidentally hop into it? Like, what's the story? How did you get started?
I kind of went through all of them. I actually started in one that I didn't mention, which is retail arbitrage, which is essentially going to like stores like Walmart, Goodwill, and Target, places like that, and finding products in their stores that you can flip for a higher profit on Amazon. So that's how I got started.
That's the old school method.
Yeah, there's still a lot of people that make good money off of it, and it's the easiest and lowest risk way to get on selling on Amazon and learning how to do it.
I have a buddy who does that, and he clears like an extra $2,000 in cash every single month.
For sure.
And he's always posting up random pictures of things he finds at Goodwill. And the other day he found like a pair of it was a double-sided dildo on sale at. He's like,
okay.
And he said he flipped it for 3 times what he paid for it. I was like, he's
nice.
And the point of the story was this is something interesting to look at, I guess, and B, just you never know what's available out there.
Yeah, I don't do it much anymore because it's time consuming. You have to spend time to make the money. Where with wholesale, I don't have to spend as much time. I spend it up front, and then I can just keep rinsing and repeating and buying those products. But every once in a while, I get the itch and just go out to like Goodwill or whatever and look. And the other day, I found this board game. Never heard of it. It was super old, like from the 80s. And it was beat up, stain all over the cover and stuff like that. And bought it for $3 and sold it for, I think, $84 and change on Amazon. So the opportunities are out there for sure. If you've got more time than money, it's a good way to make some extra cash for sure.
So what I just got from that story is you don't need a lot of money to get started doing this. Then you just need
No, not the retail arbitrage. Private label, you need the most. Wholesale, you need $5,000-$10,000. Retail arbitrage, I mean, you got $20 in the bank. Go buy a few board games and flip them, and keep snowballing. That's how I started. I wasn't. I had a good job. I have 2 associates in computer programming, computer networking, and then a bachelor's in computer programming. But I wasn't. I was making $60,000-$70,000 a year. And pretty much all the money I got to build the business, I just started flipping some retail arbitrage stuff and kept the money snowballing and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now I've got lines of credit. I think I've got like around $600,000 line of credit that I have access to buy inventory and stuff. So doing the same things as I was in the beginning, just leveled up as we talked about.
Wow. All right, so as far as wholesaling is concerned, how do you decide what products you're going to wholesale? How do you how do you know how to find your clientele? Because a lot of people they look at this, they look at all the barriers of entry. One of the things they hear about is what if I have things that what if I can't sell anything?
Yeah, so that's the hardest part, and where most people give up when they do the wholesale route. It's harder now than it used to be. But it's a good thing because that limits your competition. When something's hard, less likely that people are going to do it. But essentially, there's a lot that we'd have to go into. But if they go on YouTube and search for entrepreneur adventure reverse sourcing, they'll find my video on exactly how I find products still today. I think the video is like from 2017, but it's the same thing that we do now. But essentially, I pick a category, and I recommend that people pick a category that they have some kind of knowledge about, whether it's a hobby or something related to business or something you've done in the past or something you want to learn about. Because then when you're on the phone, you can talk the lingo to the other person. But essentially, I go on Amazon, go into that category, start searching for products, find one that would be good for us to sell, not too many sellers, Amazon's not selling it. Then I jump over to Google, search that brand and distributors. So the brand name plus distributors, find distributors of that product, call the brand directly, see if we can open an account directly, call different distributors and suppliers, try to open up accounts there. And you get a lot of no's. So that's where people get discouraged, especially when you try to go brand direct. You're going to get like 95% of them say no. We don't want any more Amazon sellers. Distributors are a little bit easier, but the price of the products isn't quite as good when you're going that route. And so you got to negotiate discounts and things like that. But it's a lot of talking on the phone and interpersonal skills and learning sales skills and things like that, and how to get around those objections when people say no.
So that was a lot to unpack, and for a lot of people who are just looking for to make this a basic side income, just hearing that paragraph alone is incredibly intimidating.
Sure. Yeah, it's not the easiest, and like I said, private label is the most sexy way to sell. Wholesale is probably the least sexy because it's basically you're a keyboard warrior in the beginning while you're finding this spreadsheet list of maybe 500 different suppliers and distributors, and then you're just on the phone calling and getting objections and trying to get around those and stuff. So it does sound like a lot, but you just take it step by step. A lot of people get analysis paralysis.
Yes.
Because they're like, okay, so I'm going to do this wholesale thing, but what happens when I open that account? How do I send the products into Amazon, and how do I ship it in? What labels do I got to put on? It's like none of that matters, right, until you open up an account and you have products to actually send. So you just got to take it step by step. Your first step, pick a category, and then go on to Amazon, find a product to sell. and go down that rabbit hole.
Gotcha. All right. So step one before you worry about anything else is open up an account with a brand that already has a product to sell. So like
Yep.
So if I'm selling Muay Thai gear, I would call it Fairtex or Everlast.
Yeah, so Muay Thai gear is a perfect example of a category to pick because it's specific, and you and I both have done a little bit of Muay Thai. We're not experts by any means for sure, but we have a little bit of knowledge in that. So let's say I'm going to call a Muay Thai gear distributor and open up an account. I can start talking to the person on the other end and not just have it be a business relationship, right? I can talk about, hey, did you see that Muay Thai fight the other day? You know, this guy beat that guy in like 3 seconds or whatever like that. And now it's no longer this guy's trying to buy products from me. It's like, oh, this guy's a fellow Muay Thai person, and you're almost becomes friends that way, right? So it escalates the relationship a lot faster and gets them to know, like, and trust you faster.
Gotcha. All right. So let's talk about what was your first account that you ever opened? Let's talk about that. And like how did you go about finding them? What was that process like? Your very first ever account?
I'm trying to think. I don't remember which one would have been the first one, but some of the first ones that I found were just on a wholesale directory called, what is it called? Wholesale Connection, I believe, is what it's called. I don't remember the name of them, and most people on Amazon usually don't like giving out the suppliers because it takes so much work to open those, so I'm not going to mention any names, but
that's fair.
It was essentially going through a directory and finding ones that I wanted to call and just calling them and emailing them until I got the accounts open.
Okay. And how long did that take?
Probably, I would say about a week of actually working through it. Not too long.
That's not
Once you actually start doing it, if you're putting in the time, right? It all depends. If you're the person you're going to put in like an hour, then obviously it's going to take a lot longer. But I started doing this, I would work at my job full time, get home by 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then sit on the computer until midnight doing this stuff. And then
you essentially worked 2 jobs.
Yeah, 2 40-hour jobs essentially. And weekends, of course, doing the business. So I kind of hit it pretty hard. Now I didn't have kids or anything like that, so that frees up a lot of time. So if you have kids and stuff, it can be a different story, but you just got to look at, how much time do you spend watching Netflix every day.
Yeah.
If you watch a couple shows, that's a couple hours that you could be sourcing products.
So when you started all of this, did you know you were going to do this full time, or did it just like start out as a hobby and then you just like thought to yourself, hey, like I think there's something here? Like when did you know that you wanted to start scaling? Yeah,
I think I've always been entrepreneurial. So I've always had the goal of having my own business. And before I did this full time, I actually had computer repair shops called TC Tech's Computers.
Oh, sweet.
TC is just the initials of my first name and then my Carlos, my partner's name in the business. And we started that in 2008. And I sold that business to one of my employees in 2018. Not for a lot. Basically, I got paid a salary essentially to work the business. But I learned a lot in running my own business and running retail shops and things like that. But I had gotten the e-commerce bug, right? Selling online, selling on Amazon, probably about 2016. When I started getting interested in that, and by 2018 I just knew that, okay, I need to leave and just go do this. I still didn't do it full time. I still had a job for another, till 2019 was when I finally left my job full time.
Oh wow. How did you know you were ready to leave?
Well, I had essentially was able to replace my income with the side business, and decided to take the jump and take the risk.
Wow. It's like the classic storybook of. It's like every entrepreneur's storybook, biography, memoir that I've ever read follows a very similar route as what you just described. Had the entrepreneurial bug, worked a 9 to 5, and then got home, worked a 6 to 12, sleep, rinse and repeat for several years, sometimes a decade or more, and then just one day they just knew it was time, just based on just the level of income they had. So
yeah, I think that's most normal entrepreneurs. And I call a normal entrepreneur versus like a venture capital entrepreneur. Like the company that you work with, they have taken venture capital, as you mentioned. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, but taking venture capital allows you to kind of jump past being
quickly
in a job, right?
Yeah.
And you've got money to run the business. Where if you're just bootstrapping it, essentially, you use some of the funds from your job to fund the business until it can run on its own.
Gotcha. All right, so a lot of people, they watch these videos of these young guys, who are saying like, I'm making all this money, you can do it too. And then a lot of people, they start trying and then they start struggling. And I see you've done like, not coaching calls, but you've definitely answered a lot of like people coming in on your live streams. Where do you see like a lot of people struggling as they take this journey into Amazon wholesaling or dropshipping or?
Yeah, I think most of the people get stuck at what we already talked about, finding suppliers, profitable suppliers. So you can open up accounts, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be profitable to sell on Amazon, because not all distributors or suppliers are created equal. So one company might sell a product to you for $5 and another one might sell it to you for $4. And then you also need to negotiate discounts. So a lot of times, majority of the time, the price they give you is not the bottom price that they're willing to sell it to you for.
Well, yeah, they're interested in making a profit themselves as well. They have to.
Yep, exactly. So they're going to give you a price that's not typically the real price, so you got to negotiate it down. And that's where people have a lot of trouble. They're like, I open these accounts and nothing's profitable. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And so that's usually where I have to kind of coach them through, you got to push a little bit harder and or find a different supplier of those products. Because if someone is selling it cheaper on Amazon, it's possible that they don't know what they're doing and they don't know they're selling it at a loss, but more likely they have purchased it at a cheaper price than you, or they've able to streamline their process and they don't have as much overhead as you do. That's one benefit, though, that someone who's just starting out and maybe shipping this product out of their basement like I was in the beginning, I didn't have any overhead, right? I was doing the labor. My house was my warehouse. So I didn't have to pay a monthly warehouse cost like I do now. I didn't have to pay for employees and all that stuff. So you can actually have a benefit over the really big sellers. The big sellers have bulk purchasing power, so that can be helpful in some ways. But a lot of times you can get around that at smaller volumes as well.
Gotcha. What are some other advantages that small guys have that they can leverage against the big guys? Because I think that's something that a lot of people, it would help them to understand that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask if it's too late, there's too many people selling, and the big sellers get all the sales and stuff like that. And what we already mentioned is probably the biggest things that are going to be a benefit to being small, but also you can move around and change, go to a different category a lot faster than a bigger business can. But the primary benefit is that you're not going to have that overhead that the big businesses are going to have. Like I know one big business, they're called Buy Boxer is the name of their company. They do about 60 million in sales a year. But I believe it was a couple of years ago, more than that now, probably 3 or 4 years ago, 2018, 19, one of those 2 years where they actually, even though they did 60 million in sales, they lost money because of all the overhead that they have in the business. So
they're still net negative even at scale.
Yep. Yeah, so they had to like clean their inventory, and now they're profitable again, and they're a really good business. But you know, those are the things that you can run into as you start bringing on employees. I've run into the same thing. You know, before I now have, let's see, 1, 2, 3 full-time employees here in Tampa, and then 1 part-time. And you know, I've just recently brought some of those employees on, so my bottom line profit margin has gone to close to 15% to down to like 6 or 7% right now, because you know, I just took on all that overhead, and I'm expecting to grow my sales, but until the sales kick up, you know, you got to deal with that extra overhead until it gets back to where it needs to be.
So is that your first time handling employees for Amazon, or?
First time. I mean, I've had the one full-timer for a long time. It's actually my father-in-law. He helps me with prepping and everything like that, so he's been helping me for a long time. But the most recent employees have been this year.
Oh, wow.
A couple extra ones. So.
How's it working out so far?
Good. They're both super smart, really good, do really good work. So I know we're going to get to where we need to be. It's just a matter of time.
That's awesome. All right. So a lot of people try to get into it. Do you ever try to, have you ever seen people that you've seen try to get into the Amazon game, and you think to yourself, you probably should not do this?
Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody. Entrepreneurship in general is just not for everybody. There's different kinds of people. And I think one of the primary aspects of it is if you are someone who is very detail-oriented, you know, very micro-focused. You can look at a problem and you just stay focused on it and figure it out, do all the details, handle all the little stuff. And then there's the typical entrepreneurial type is more like you see a problem, you figure out the solution, and then you run 100 miles an hour at the solution, and all the pieces are just falling all over the place, and you don't pay attention to all the little stuff. You just see the goal, you head for the goal. And that's the kind of person that I am, and so I need the employees to help me take care of all the details. I can stay focused on details for a little bit, but I've got so many different things that I have started doing and that are just in a pile of stuff that I haven't finished, you know?
What you just described is every single high-level entrepreneur that I know. They start like 1 million projects and only like 3 of them ever hit, and they don't look at like they don't look at the 97 that didn't hit. They just look at the 3 that did hit.
Yep.
And I think that's very fascinating, because I do talk to a lot of people who are entrepreneurs and people who aren't entrepreneurs. The people who aren't the entrepreneurs, they think that the first type that you described, that's incredibly detail oriented, is what's required to be an entrepreneur. And here you are, Todd Welch, you are taking that narrative and you're flipping it on its head and telling people, no, you don't want to be that micromanager, that detail-oriented person, that mega-focused person.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's easy to get confused, because you might think that, like I thought for a long time that I was detail-oriented, you know, computer programming and all this stuff, until I realized that, you know, after doing something for a little while, I get sick of it and I don't want to do it anymore. Like jobs, you know, I couldn't stay at a job for more than a year because I'd learn everything, and then I'd get sick of doing the same thing over and over. So yeah, every entrepreneur needs what's called an integrator, or a CEO is the same thing as an integrator. There's a book called Traction,
Yes.
by Gino Wickman, I believe.
Love that book.
Yeah, highly recommend it. But he calls them integrators, and that's like your CEOs and stuff. And a company cannot be successful, and an entrepreneur can't be really successful, without an integrator. That's the person putting all the pieces together. Yeah. It's like, the entrepreneur bursts in to be like, I got this great idea, we're going to do this, let's go. And then he runs out the door. Yeah. And the integrator is left there to pick up the pieces and try to figure out, okay, that is a good idea, how do we do it?
Yeah.
So in the beginning, though, you have to be all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I had to do it all myself. So I'd had to do all the detail stuff and get organized as much as possible. But once you hit a certain point, which is where most people either shrink or burn out or give up, most entrepreneurs, there comes a point where the business starts to outgrow you, and you have to make a decision to either bring in someone who can be that integrator, do some of the detailed pieces. In my case, I hired someone to help me prep, help in the warehouse, and then I hired an office person who's taking care of ordering and stuff like that. Or you have to shrink down to whatever size you can actually handle.
Shrink down. That's not a phrase that's heard a lot for people wanting to get into entrepreneurship, because all they see is the scale, 10x, 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 make money, dominate. You rarely hear people talk about shrinking down.
Yeah, well, you have to decide what kind of business you want to run.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to build a Fortune 500 company, or are you cool with a company that can make you $75,000 to $100,000 a year? You got to decide what level you want to be at. Either way, you're probably going to bring on employees. Mm-hmm. But you gotta figure out what your goal is. Where do you want to be in 10 years from now? And then work backwards and figure out, okay, to get there, I need this much profit per month, or this many sales per month, or whatever the case it may be, and work towards that goal.
Gotcha.
Not everybody needs to make $1 million a year. Some people would be happy with $250,000 a year. Other people want 10 million or 10 billion or whatever the case may be. So,
I mean, 250K can go you very, very far in everywhere in the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. And if you're good with investing and stuff like that, you can turn it into passive income and all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you invest also?
I do some. Mostly I'm trying to invest in real estate, like single family rental homes.
Yeah.
Right now I've got 2 rental houses, and then our main house that eventually will probably turn into a rental as well. But I want to get up to having like maybe 20, 30, 40 different single family rentals would be ideal.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So how did you survive during the COVID mess that we all went into?
Yeah, so for e-commerce people, anybody who sold online, it was pretty much just you were bankrolling.
It was a slaughter.
It just went so quickly because everybody started shopping online. Yeah, you couldn't go to the store, and so the e-commerce world just blew up. I mean, I doubled each of the years of COVID, 2020 and then 2021. Mm-hmm. This year has slowed down. Right now, I'm a little bit less than what I had last year, but the numbers are starting to flip around as we figure things out in the new economy that we've got going on as things are slowing down. But so definitely don't think we're going to double this year, but it still should be a positive year. But overall, COVID was a positive for anybody who sold online, as bad as that sounds. But
I mean, when the Fed prints $7 trillion and gives it to people, they're going to buy things with it.
Oh yes, yes. When people had more savings at the end of COVID than at the beginning. So people had a lot of money to spend. Unfortunately, right now we're dealing with the consequences of throwing lots of money at a shrinking supply of products, which 8.6 inflation I think last month. So
It's 8.6, and they just bumped up the rate today by 75 basis points. I don't know if you saw that.
yeah, that's crazy. And they were only going to do 0.5. So.
Yeah.
But if we go back to 1970, I think Paul Volcker was the Fed chair then, and I think he increased interest rates by like 10 or 12% in one setting.
Dude, we were at 18% at a peak.
Yeah.
Interest rates.
Yeah,
Like
if you just jacked it up to stop inflation.
If you walked in to buy a car and you had an 800 credit score, you walked out with an 18% rate.
Yeah, that's painful. I don't think we're headed there just because they can't. They don't have room to do that, and the politicians are not willing to push the pain that we have to bear to fix the problem. You know, we're kind of like a cocaine addict or a drug addict, a heroin addict, probably a better analogy right now. You know, you take away the drug, which is the easy money, and you go into withdrawals, and that's what's happening to the economy right now.
That's exactly what's going on right now. All right. So even with the supply chain disruptions, were you affected by that at all?
Yeah, definitely some. I mean, we have a lot more products out of stock now than we did before the pandemic, for sure. And I know a lot of suppliers were struggling getting stuff from China and things like that. One of the good things with us is that, you know, instead of going like an inch wide and a mile deep, we went more like an inch deep and a mile wide. So we've got a lot of SKUs that sell a little rather than a few SKUs that sell a lot. So that kind of helped, I think, even it out a little bit. So while one SKU went out, we got this other one that was in stock, and we added these other ones and kind of compensated for them. But definitely struggled to keep some products in stock. It's getting a little better now, but companies are still having issues.
That reminds me of a buddy of mine who does affiliate marketing online. He just builds websites for random things, and he just sells things through those websites. Not any one of those websites is tremendously cash flowing, but he has like over 25 of them, and each one generates like $1,000 a month.
Yep.
So multiply that by 25. So that's what he's doing. So like if one of them goes down, and he purposely does it that way because God forbid one piece of his business is responsible for 35% of his income. If that one leg goes down, there goes 35% of his income.
Yep.
So you follow a similar principle as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same thing with the suppliers that you're working with. You kind of want to mix it up, right? Because you don't want 60% of your products coming from one supplier, and then all of a sudden you get an email that, hey, we're discontinuing your account for whatever reason, and then you're out of luck. So I diversify that way as well. There's different schools of thought. As you know, Warren Buffett, I think he says, put all of your eggs in one basket and watch that basket really closely. And then the other people say, you know, move stuff all over the place. And I think there's value to both. You know, for example, I do have most of my eggs in one basket when it comes to Amazon. Right? My Amazon account gets shut down. There goes pretty much most of the business. So in that case, I do have most of my eggs in that one basket. I'm watching it really closely. But then inside of that basket, I've got a diversified of different colored eggs, or whatever analogy you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I diversify within the market that I'm focused on.
Yeah. So I like to follow the Kevin O'Leary method of business building and investing, which is like a combination of both schools of thought, which is in order to grow and he said, if you're under 100K of net worth, put all your energies into one thing and grow that one thing. And when you hit that 100K mark, that's when you spread out and diversify. And when you're comfortable enough of spreading out there, you then you narrow your efforts down and get into one area, grow that one thing, and then that way if you ever collapse from here, you're not falling back down to zero. You're falling back down to 100K where you were diversified. So.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think that's probably what Warren Buffett is kind of getting to. Because one of the biggest problems that people have who are trying to start a business is, let's say they're doing drop shipping and they get a little bit of success, but then they run into a problem and they're like, oh, this drop shipping thing doesn't work, so I'll go do wholesale. So they do wholesale, and they run into a problem like, oh, that's no good. I'll try private label or Shopify or whatever, business opportunities that are out there, and they're just jumping from one to another. And no matter what you do, you're going to run into a problem. The whole point of a business owner is to be a problem solver. That's the whole point of a business. And so when you hit those problems, you got to figure out ways to get around them, get over them, get through them, whatever the case may be. And that's how you start getting successful. And that never ends. There's always problems. I mean, you talk to Elon Musk and he's a billionaire, but I guarantee you, look at with Twitter, the problems he's running into trying to buy Twitter with fake users and things like that. So there's always problems. That's never ending, but a lot of people give up way too early.
Way too early. Is that why do you think that happens? Is it that because they're just not aware of what it takes to be an entrepreneur, or they're just not problem solvers, or they shouldn't be entrepreneurs? I know that's a loaded question, I know. So
yeah, it could be all of the above. Maybe you're not an entrepreneur, but I think that you can kind of figure that out if you got the entrepreneur mentality after trying a little while. If you keep wanting to do this and figure out new things and stuff, then you're probably an entrepreneur. Where if you're someone who's like, oh, that's too risky, I'll go get a job or something like that, then you're probably best getting a job, and that's a good thing because entrepreneurs need good employees to have a successful business, so you need both. But where were we going with that?
I think we were talking about should some people be entrepreneurs or should some people not? I think that's where that started. But
yeah, so I think it all depends. Like I said, if you can be an entrepreneur or not, but you just don't want to give up too early. You got to push through those roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
Most people give up because, and that's what we were talking about, why people give up. Most people give up, I think, either because they're afraid of the possibility of starting to get successful and then failing, because that can look really bad. We all have we all want to look good to our friends and stuff like that, and if you fail, that can hurt and feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they got family members that are like, you should just get a job. Why are you wasting your time with that? Whatever the case may be. There's something in their life that's holding them back. Either their own mental state, they're not ready to be successful. You can throw up your roadblocks to prevent yourself from being successful.
Yes, you can.
I know someone at an event that I was recently spoke at, and he's been coming to these events for like 5 years, learning how to sell on Amazon, and he has never taken the step to actually get a product to sell. And he said straight up, he's like, I don't want to take the risk of failing, so he just enjoys the community.
But that opportunity cost, though, by not taking that risk, you're leaving hundreds, thousands, millions on the table, and not just that, it's that freedom. I don't know, I don't get it.
Yeah, I tried to talk him through, different steps, but every suggestion that I gave, he had a counterpoint of why it wouldn't work.
Oh yeah,
or why he doesn't want to do that, or so you can talk yourself out of these things just as easily as someone else talking you out of it, or Some people are just, you can actually be afraid of success.
Yeah.
We have our own blocks. Like maybe you were growing up, you were lower class and didn't make a lot of money. Your family didn't make a lot of money, so you don't have a good mentality when it comes to money. Maybe your parents said, oh, look at those evil rich people, they don't pay their fair share and all that stuff. So you have a negative mindset about success.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not even know that it's happening, but you're self-sabotaging yourself potentially.
Have you ever dealt with anything like that yourself, personally?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were probably lower middle class, I guess, growing up, so we weren't rich or anything like that. And my parents have had that mentality a little bit, not to the extreme like some people, but they would talk about that kind of stuff and rich people this, rich people that, and things like that. So I definitely had to get over that mentality. I kind of made the decision I think I was about 23 years old probably. And for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but I started researching the different political parties because, my parents always voted Democrat and that's what I voted. And so, but around that point, I just felt like something wasn't right. So I started researching all the parties, Democrat, Republican, Green Party, Constitutional Party, Libertarian Party, and Libertarian Party is where I felt like this makes the most sense.
Most entrepreneurs end up in the Libertarians.
Yeah, and that I think was the beginning of me going down the path of just learning a new way, getting out of the kind of the Democrat mindset. And I'm not talking about all Democrats or something wrong with being a Democrat, but when you look at the extremes of any party, you kind of lose a lot of logic
Yes.
and reason and stuff like that. And so that was kind of my beginning of my path to going down the path of learning about politics, learning about business and success and wealth, and reading Robert Kiyosaki's book,
Rich Dad,
Poor Dad, and stuff like that. And so that's kind of started me on that journey.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And did you have anyone along the way just tell you Todd, stop doing what you're doing, or you're wasting your time, or you'll never be successful?
No, my parents are very supportive.
Oh, that's good.
With that, they always have been. When I was younger, I think we got my first computer. Our first computer, I was about 14 years old, maybe 13 or 14 years old. And I promptly took the whole computer apart and laid all the pieces out on the table. And thankfully, my parents didn't kick my butt. They just said, it better work when you put it back together, please. And yeah, I believe I took it all apart because I wanted to upgrade it and do something and figure out how it worked. And so I took it all apart, laid it on the table, ran to the store and got some memory or something like that, and my parents came home and I just had a note do not touch. And so that was kind of the start of it. I think some parents might freak out, what are you doing? We paid a lot of money for that computer and blah 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 blah. But that's nurturing that kind of stuff is how you kind of build that entrepreneurial mindset, or even just the technical mindset of learning that kind of stuff. You just got to push the person to make sure that it works when it's done, get it back together, because some people take it apart and then they don't put it back together and it doesn't work. But that's kind of how I started, and then I started building websites and made some money off of one of the websites I did and just went from there.
That's pretty cool. So as far as just to bring us back to Amazon wholesaling, drop shipping, hold on. Need a minute to think on this question. Okay, how do I want to phrase this? I had this awesome question in my mind, and it just like blanked out of my head.
Oh, I hate that.
I just feel so
That
awkward
happens
right
to
now.
me all the time. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
That's the entrepreneurial mind, because you had the question and then you started thinking about something else.
Yeah.
Moving from one thing to the next thing. Like,
Yeah. This is awkward. This has never happened before. I'm very a little embarrassed right now.
no worries.
Well, I am really upset at myself right now.
What was it about? Like just selling on Amazon in general, or something regarding wholesale?
It was 100% regarding wholesale.
Okay. And we already talked about finding suppliers and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yo, I'm so messed up right now. Well, I guess I'll have to shelf that question that doesn't exist in my mind right now and move
It'll come
on.
back to you.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Move on and it'll come back to you.
Yeah, it's like sometimes when I'm trying to find something in my house, I can't find it. All I do is I just start cleaning my house and it just magically reappears.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I guess I can always double back and just hop onto entrepreneurship, because that's one thing I can always talk about. So do you think that entrepreneurship is a skill that anybody can learn, or does someone have to like be born with it? And there's a lot of opinions on this.
I think the personality is you're born with, kind of. But the actual processes of building a business, that can all be learned. So I think you need to have a certain mentality. The difference between being a detail-oriented person and not a detail-oriented person is you usually either are that or not by the time you're going to be building a business. Whether you're born with it or you learn it when you're young, I don't know the answer to that. But by the time you're to the point where you're going to start building a business, whether that's 16 to 18 or older than that, it's probably already been developed. At least the mentality of growing a business, moving fast, finding solutions to different problems and things like that, and not necessarily being afraid to do that. Otherwise, you're going to be more of that detail-oriented person who's going to be really good at, working a job in the business, being the CEO, CFO, things like that. So, yeah, I think you're kind of either born with it or kind of learn the mentality young.
So I'm just going to take a stab at dissecting what you said and putting it into my own words, just to see if we're on the same page. Anyone can learn how to build a business. Anybody can. There's skills, system building, management, marketing, sales. Anybody can learn those hard skills, but your temperament and the way you approach things is probably going to dictate where you land on the entrepreneurship scale, because not everyone can scale like a Bezos or a Zuckerberg. But but a lot of people can still open up like a mom and pop shop to sell things to their local community. And so
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, anybody can. I think there's a difference between being a business owner and an entrepreneur. The entrepreneurs are typically more the visionary people, like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and stuff.
The guys changing the world.
Yeah, where a business owner is someone who has the mom and pop shop, or selling, doing retail arbitrage and things like that. At a certain point in the growth cycle of the business, though, you need that split of the entrepreneurial kind of visionary person for the business of where are we going, what new things can we do, and then the operational side of it.
Gotcha.
So it kind of depends on the size of the business as well. A lot of mom and pops, you might have your restaurant or you've got your shop or whatever, and they make a good living off of that, and that's what they're happy with. And I don't think you need necessarily the entrepreneurial visionary side of it to run a business like that.
Yep, and you have to be very self-aware in order to know where you're going to land.
Yep. Yeah, I think an important side, if you're not an entrepreneur but you still want to do a business, is to learn how to manage employees and how to handle employees, because that's where a lot of people fall down, is that, let's say they get a business and they hire some employees and then something breaks, something falls apart, the employee's not doing this right, the sales are going down, whatever the case may be. And so at that point is when a lot of people say like, I'll just do it all myself. Nobody can do it as good as me, which may be the case, but you want to find an employee who can do it 70 to 80% as good as you can do it, so that you can keep growing. And always remember that if the employee failed, most likely they failed because you didn't set them up properly for success.
You didn't create a system for them.
Yeah, either you hired the wrong person for the job to begin with, or your systems were not proper, and you were just saying, hey, go figure it out, do it. And they figured it out the way that they figured out. An employee usually thinks a lot different than a business owner, and especially different than an entrepreneur.
Is this camera on?
Yep.
Okay, cool. There's normally a light that pops on behind it, and I'm like, I haven't seen that light come on in a while.
Yeah, it's counting down.
Okay, awesome. Okay, now the question I was going to ask earlier is, so Amazon, the world of Amazon is still extremely new. So, and because of that, there aren't really many books or seminars that actually give people a really good blueprint of what to do, how to do it, outside of your YouTube videos. Where did you learn everything that you learned, and what was that process like?
Yeah, so, majority of the stuff that I learned was just off of watching sporadic YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, and then just figuring it out on my own, how to do it, and figuring out how to do it better, and things like that. So I'm really good at that kind of stuff, like looking at something or maybe watching a video on how to do something and then executing on it and improving on it. That's a skill that I'm pretty good at. So that's pretty much how I did most of it. Always trying to learn more, books and stuff like that. I've got a lot of YouTube videos that people can watch, but you don't know what you don't know. So for example, I don't have a course. So there's a guy by the name of Larry Lebowski. Watch Me Amazon is the name of his YouTube channel.
Yeah, you've done a lot of work with him.
Yeah, he has a course that is really good. When it came out, $2,000, I bought it. 80% of the stuff was stuff that I was already doing, but definitely picked up a lot of really good tips from him, and just helped escalate my game that much more and learning different ways. So, getting a course, watching YouTube videos, learning it on your own. Everybody has kind of different styles that they do, but Amazon is still relatively new, but in terms of the e-commerce world and the time and speed that goes at, it's actually really old. 10 years in the internet world is like
in eternity,
1,000 years, 100 years. So there's a lot of content out there that people can find. You kind of got to weed through, like you said, the ones that you were looking at that are like, a lot of the Amazon gurus they make it. They have good content, some of them, but they make it sound a lot easier than it is. Yeah. And that's something I try not to do. Like in the beginning, you said, that sounds very difficult.
That's so dangerous.
And I do that on purpose. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, you just take $1,000, open an account with that supplier, and next week you got $1 million, And that's how they sell you, because that people are attracted to that easy money and stuff like that. And so that's, my channel's got 10,000 subscribers now. I probably could have 100,000 if I was just one of those gurus too, and just did all the marketing and selling.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, you took like a year off of making videos, though.
yeah.
You did have a live about a month ago, which was really cool.
Yeah, the good thing is most of the content in the wholesale world, most of the content is very evergreen. Not a lot changes, which is why it's not very sexy. You know, private label, there's always the new shiny thing, the new tactic that you can do and stuff like that. Wholesale is just like rinse and repeat, keep doing it kind of thing. So most of the content is getting a little bit older, but it's all the same stuff that we're doing today.
It still applies.
Yeah.
No, I definitely, when I was going through your videos, I'm like, a lot of this, I was like, I can probably do a lot of this stuff still today.
Yeah.
And it actually feels like most people, if they want to get into this world, should go the wholesale route as, like you said, medium risk, medium reward.
Yeah.
Versus like drop shipping is like low risk, low reward, and that would probably create the most frustrations. Versus the shiny object syndrome that a lot of people are drawn towards is probably where a lot of people should not go.
Yeah, the drop shipping I think really gets pushed, like the shiny object thing. You know, it's another one that's kind of sexier than what it actually is. At least with private label, like you can legit make millions of dollars if you hit a home run in that, and there's a lot of people who do it, but there's people who lose money in it as well. But with drop shipping, it's a lot harder to build up to a large scale and make money and not get into trouble, because Amazon, they have a lot of rules around drop shipping. And if you break one of those rules, like if you say, okay, this product is going to be shipped within 3 days, and you maybe submit the order right away, but your supplier doesn't ship it for 4 days, now that strike is against you and Amazon. Or let's say they ship the product to the customer, and instead of putting your business's name on the package, they put the supplier's name on the package, and Amazon finds out about that, that'll be a strike against you as well, because everything has to have your business name on, nobody else's business name. And so you can run into a lot of pitfalls with that, so you got to be careful. There's people who make money at it, so I'm not trying to discourage anyone necessarily, but I would rather go down, start with retail arbitrage, learn the ropes, and then do wholesale. And the cool thing is most big wholesale people end up having a good chunk of their business private label brands as well. And you have the income from the wholesale products to fund the creation of the private label products.
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, like a business's job is to establish a powerful brand. So
yeah.
So it makes sense that those two would go hand in hand.
Yep, for sure.
Awesome. All right, so if someone is watching this video right now and they're thinking to themselves, hey, I want to give this a shot. And I know we've already covered like what they should do, start with retail arbitrage and then go from there. Is there any other advice that you would give this person, any like warnings or any like anything that you would let them know ahead of time?
Well, I guess just make sure that you actually want to put in the work and understand what you're actually trying to build. Like we talked already, do you need to make $1 million a year, or are you okay making $100,000 a year? Because that will help lay out the path that you're going to go down. A lot of people chase I want to make $1 million a year just because it's a cool number, but
it sounds sexy.
Why? Yeah. Why do you want to make that? What are you trying to achieve?
I'm trying to buy Lambos. I'm trying to, buy mansions.
Yeah, but you got to go deeper than the Lambos and the mansions, because that's fulfilling another need. That's fulfilling your need for having status and looking cool or looking good to your friends or your family members. So you want to when you run into, I want to make $1 million, ask yourself why. Well, I want to buy Lamborghinis and I want to buy a really nice mansion. Why do you want to do that? Well, because then my friends will think I'm really cool. And well, why do you want your friends to think that you're really cool? And just keep asking yourself why until you get to the bottom. Usually it's like 6 or 7
whys,
different levels deep before you get to, well, my parents were really poor, and I want to have enough money in the bank to be able to live the lifestyle that my wife and I want to live, so that we're secure and I can send my kids to college and I can pay for my parents' retirement. Now that's more a real why than, I want a Lamborghini and a nice mansion.
Gotcha.
Right?
So I love the concepts of why. So can you touch on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So
seven levels deep.
Yeah, my why. One of my whys is I want to pay for my parents' retirement, which I've started doing a little bit of that, and I want to be able to, when I have kids, which is hopefully happening soon here, I want to be able to homeschool my kids. I want to have free time. I want to be able to spend as much time as I want with them, go to all their baseball games or band concerts or whatever it is they choose to do, and not be hindered by constraints on my time and income for that kind of stuff. But it's super important because a lot of people get stuck on, I want to make $1 million or something, and that's just surface level. And so when the proverbial shit hits the fan, that surface level motivation can often be not enough really quick. So
100%. I see it all the time. When did you discover your why? Did you always have that, or did that just pop up halfway through?
No, I figured it out intentionally. Just, I don't remember which book I read about it first. I mean, it's in a lot of, business books and things like that.
Simon Sinek, Start With Why.
Yeah. So one of them, after reading it, I just sat down and with a notebook and, kind of figured out why I'm doing this, and use that as your motivation when times get tough. Because inevitably, times are going to suck at some point. They're not always good.
Oh, yeah. 100%. So how do you feel moving forward with everything that's going on with the economy, the U.S. dollar, the Russian ruble being the strongest currency in the world right now, or strongest performing currency, and all this war, everything that's going on right now?
Yeah, it doesn't look good, that's for sure. It makes me nervous, I think, just like anybody, because when the future is more uncertain, it makes you nervous, especially after the last few years of how successful e-commerce businesses have been. It's kind of hard to say, well, I guess I'm not going to double this year, so that sucks. Yeah, I don't know exactly where, nobody can predict exactly where the economy is going to go. But I had that moment where I'm like, oh man, I don't know, do I want to keep doing this, or maybe I should figure out something else? But I haven't achieved the goals that I've set for myself in this business yet. And so I kind of circled back around to my whys and my 3-year goals, 5-year goals and stuff, and that got me refocused on what I need to be doing. And so the business is starting to gain traction again here in the second half. I think we're going to look pretty good, but it's going to be tough for a lot of people. In down markets like we're going into, and most likely we're going into a recession, it looks like. It's going to hurt a lot of people. A lot of people are going to get laid off. A lot of businesses are going to close. But at the same time, most super successful businesses were born in a recession.
Uber.
Yeah. So if you can weather the storm and get through it, and then be in a position to take advantage of all the opportunities that'll be out there, from businesses that have gone under to cheap stuff, whatever. If the prices of anything goes down, last time we had real estate go down. Who knows what'll happen this time? But there'll be something. I mean, look at crypto. Crypto is just collapsed. So now, if you're in a position, whether we're at the bottom now or not, if you can be buying these kind of things, buying the stocks, if that's your thing, while it's going down, most people get scared, right, when it starts going down and they start selling, which is the wrong thing to do. You want to be buying as it's going down. And then when it does eventually go back up, because it pretty much always does, you're going to be in position to make a lot of money.
Yeah. So what should most people be doing right now then? Exactly that.
Yeah, it depends on your own risk factor. I mean, if you're really worried, get your money into probably, I mean, cash is the I want to say the safest, but it's also the most inflationary right now. But if you can if you have cash, you can move that into commodities as you need. So like if you've got a bunch of cash in the bank, crypto's way down, I'm going to throw some in there. Gold is down, I'm going to throw some in there. Stock market's down, I'm going to throw some in there. Or whatever opportunity. Maybe somebody's business is going out of business and you're like, well, I'm looking at this business, I see a bunch of things that I could fix. Let me go talk to this guy about maybe buying it. I could probably get it cheap. He's just going out of business. Take over what he's doing and put your unique spin on it. I just heard someone on a podcast, she buys businesses, and she said she looks for the fax machine in a business. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a fax machine, but look for the old thing that you can update and make the business better. Like an example is one of my suppliers, they send the invoice. I swear they must print it on a dot matrix printer. So I can just imagine, because it comes on like that carbon paper and stuff like that. So I can just imagine how antiquated their systems are, their computer systems, right? So there's an opportunity. Let's say they were going out of business. I could take them over, modernize them, and potentially turn them profitable. So
my company, the company we're in right now, the industry that we're competing in, when we first got our partners, they sent us carbon papers, and we were like, what the heck are we supposed to do with all this? And
funny.
And we forced them to upgrade to PDFs and DocuSign. Like if you're gonna work with us, and we have the ability to send you like 100 million a year, you're gonna have to upgrade your systems. Yeah. And by doing that, we actually managed to take a 15% market cap of our entire industry. So
nice.
her method works. Find the fax machines, and I love it.
Yeah. In the same token, in the wholesale world, when I open up an account and they send me that crappy invoice or ask me to pay by check and their website looks like it's from the year 2000, I usually get excited actually, because those a lot of times are some of the better suppliers out there, and they're more welcoming to work with people, because a lot of times they're not the big conglomerates that you're just a number. You know, the person who answers the phone is like the owner.
That's
or
perfect.
The owner's son who's running the business now, or something like that. You know.
That's perfect, actually. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. This is really sick. So I'm going to just add just a couple more questions, and then we'll close it out.
Yeah, we should probably say that this is not financial advice. We're not giving suggestions on what to do in a down market.
This is two men who are just having a conversation about things that they're passionate about, which just happens to be financially related. None of this is personal or directed to anybody. Always talk with your lawyer and your financial advisor before making a financial decision.
Exactly. Got to get that in.
You always have to get that in. A buddy of mine got popped by the SEC because he has a YouTube channel which has like millions of subscribers, and people who join his Discord, they got like buy and sell alerts, and then the SEC like, oh whoa, so are you giving financial advice? He got cleared of all charges, but it was like a whole hassle for like a year and a half of investigations. So not financial advice.
Well, it takes one person to complain about you or something. So
yeah. All right. So what's next for you, Todd?
Well, I'm actually right now in the process of buying another wholesale business that will kind of roll into my current business. They're about half the size of us, so we're gonna hopefully finalize that here in June, and then begin the process of integrating them into our business. So that's my plan for right now. I'm actually developing our own warehouse management software as well, because there's not really anything good out there for the Amazon world. So that's an opportunity down the line, maybe to run a software business or something like that.
A SaaS company?
Yeah, but right now I'm just trying to solve our own internal problems, but a lot of times that's how some of the best businesses are born. So I'm developing it with that in the back of my mind. But yeah, just trying to keep growing. I was hoping to hit 6 million in sales this year. Last year we did 3 million. I think we're probably going to finish more around like 4.5
growth is
million.
Growth.
But as long as we grow, I think in a down economy, I'll be happy. And just keep going from there. I want to get myself out of the business in the next 1 to 2 years. I'd like to be out of it. Have a summer house out in Utah and be able to go out there for the hot summers here in Florida. And
you want to work on the business, not in the business.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I want it to be able to continue running whether I'm there or not.
Perfect.
The hit by the bus test, as they say.
All right. So as far as the SaaS part, that's pretty much how AWS got started. They were solving their own internal communication problems.
Yeah.
And then somebody along the line realized, hey, there's a lot of companies out there who could use our software, and then they just started marketing it, and that's what allowed Amazon to really become profitable. It was through AWS. So, and you're following the same model, which I find very, very interesting. That as huge as Amazon, AWS, and the wholesaling world is, that they don't have a good software to manage their wholesaling.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of inventory management softwares out there, but none of them were designed with Amazon in mind, because a lot of them are from before Amazon.
Yeah.
And so they've just kind of added on the Amazon stuff, and it's not very good.
The APIs are rough.
Yeah.
If there even is one.
Yeah, it's just simple stuff a lot of times. Like they don't have the ability to print an Amazon barcode inside their software, or to send inventory into Amazon, instead of having like a nice interface to do it, you use like this weird report thing that doesn't work very well. And I think I interviewed about 30 or 40 different warehouse management softwares, and all of them had some kind of shortfall that just made them not usable for me, or they're super expensive.
Yeah. So
there's cheap ones that we've used up until now, and then there's ones that'll do everything that I want, but they're going to cost me like $100,000 a year, which I can't afford yet. And there's not a lot of anything that's really good in the middle.
And with your tech background and your understanding of the business, you're almost like the tailor-made guy to solve this problem.
Yeah, it works out good, because I've got a developer in India that I'm working with, and so I kind of just give him the specs and what I want it to do, and he builds it for me.
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right. I feel like you read a lot of books. I am going to ask you if there's any books that you would recommend for anyone to read, whether they're getting into Amazon or just business or entrepreneurship in general.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is really good for the mindset. You don't have to necessarily think that what he talks about and doing with real estate is what you're going to do. It's more the mindset of money. The money mindset around the book is really good. 4-Hour Work Week is another really good motivational one.
Tim Ferriss.
Yeah,
nice.
Both those are really inspirational to me. And it's not that you're going to necessarily work a 4-hour work week, but it's the mindset there of outsourcing the work and not trying to do it all yourself.
Duplicating yourself.
Exactly. And then Traction, which we already talked about, is really good for getting into the weeds of the operations of a business and how to properly run it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was an awesome conversation. Definitely learned a lot today. Is there any closing statements you want to make before we close it out?
No, that's it, Rex. I think has been great talking with you as well. Just as my friend Scott Volker says, he says you got to take action. If you want to do this, don't just sit around and keep thinking about it. Just take the next step. Don't worry about what the second, third, and fourth step is. Just take the first one and start down the path.
Just focus on the next domino, because that first domino knocks down another domino twice its size.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right, where can people find out more about you, or if they want to get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. EntrepreneurAdventure.com.
Mm-hmm.
They can, or just search Entrepreneur Adventure on Google. A lot of people misspell entrepreneur.
Yes, there will be links down below.
Yeah,
in the description.
Have the link, or search on YouTube for Entrepreneur Adventure. Reverse sourcing is that video we talked about. Is a great place to start to kind of learn how to find products.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
This was fun. Dude, that was an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. That was the fastest hour and 20